Goeiedag, mijn naam is Evan, ik ben immigratieprocureur here in America, and ik wil you help immigratiewet te verstaan. Now today I again have some very big news. News that will help not only Afrikaner refugees, but really for this situation, I think it will more so help Afrikaners here in the United States who are seeking asylum. Now remember, as of right now, all affirmative asylum decisions have been paused. So USCIS, if you are an Afrikaner here seeking asylum and you go for your interview, they're still doing interviews. But the Trump administration's directive to USCIS is to not make decisions at this time. And again, what they're trying to do is figure out better ways to vet and do background checks on potential asylees. But all that to say this, that it is very good when the U.S. government comes out and makes an official stand on a position. And things that government representatives say has been used as official stances of the government, especially when it's the president himself or his press secretary. That's what we're going to get into Caroline Leavitt today, the press secretary, who said that all refugee programs are suspended, which we knew. This is nothing new, right? That shouldn't scare anyone. I know some Afrikaners heard refugees suspended and they freaked out, but all refugee programs have been suspended since President Trump's executive order back in January, one of the first executive orders he did. But it has not suspended the Afrikaner refugee program. That is not what I'm excited about. What I'm excited about ties into a video from a couple of weeks ago that I made where I showed you, and this came from an article from the American Bar Association, that in President Trump's first term, the administration took the position that the president's social media posts, at that time it was Twitter, are official government positions. So when President Trump made the statement about the G20 saying that Afrikaners are being slaughtered or being killed, right, that was an official government statement. And I said for refugees, it helps you. It's not necessary for you. Refugees, you have a much lower burden. Remember, you only have to articulate the well-founded fear of future persecution, but it can help you as well to say, hey, look, President Trump is even saying we're being killed here, right? Now, for asylum seekers, where the burden is much heavier, it's a much higher burden, a much a level for you to meet, where you have to individually prove that you have that well-founded fear of future persecution. I've said, take President Trump's Truth Social post, where it says that Afrikaners are being killed because they are an ethnic minority, they are people of white European descent, and you say, here's the President of the United States saying that people of my ethnicity are being killed. Well, when Caroline Leavitt came out yesterday and said that all refugee programs are paused except for the Afrikaner refugee program, for Afrikaners who are suffering persecution, she again took a position from our government saying that our government acknowledges that Afrikaners are facing persecution inside Africa. So if you are a refugee, I think that one of the things you can say, and again, for you it's different. For you, it's much simpler because you do have things like the EFF, Malema, the farm murders, all of those things you can point to. You have less of a burden. You just have to articulate it. But you can also say, and hey, look, I know government representative, USCIS refugee officer, President Trump has said that they're killing us here. And even Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary who speaks for the administration, that is her job, that is her role, the mouthpiece of the administration, has said there is persecution. So clearly our government has already taken the position that there is persecution. Now for asylum seekers, again, to switch to you guys who are here, this would seem like it should just open the floodgates, but you've heard me say that asylum is very weird. It's very weird in that things like this are not an automatic guarantee. Now the administration can do whatever it wants to do with this, but again, the burden until they do declare that the doors are open for Afrikaner asylum seekers, and they could direct USCIS asylum officers to just allow you in because they've already acknowledged this persecution. They won't, but they could. But since that hasn't happened, the burden is still on you. But look at what you should lead off with. This is good news for you because you now have the president and the president's mouthpiece, both agents of the executive. One, the president saying that Afrikaners are being killed, and the second saying that Afrikaners are fleeing persecution, so you have an official stance of the U.S. government saying there's persecution. And case law has shown in the past that that then flips the burden to the government to then show that persecution is no longer relevant, it's no longer well-founded, there's no longer well-founded fear of future persecution because conditions have changed or something along those lines. So in theory, it should shift the burden. So not only go in with your stories of past persecution, your fear of things like Malema, the EFF, the farm murders, all of that stuff, but also the fact, and remember, the burden's on you. You, for asylum seekers, right? We're on asylum now. So not you refugees. But asylum seekers, you can't just assume that that USCIS officer has the information. You have to pretend that they are just a blank slate. You have to tell them, hey, look, representative of the U.S. government, representative of the executive branch, because that's what they are, USCIS, the chief executive of the United States, the president, and the president's press secretary, the mouthpiece for the executive department, has said that not only are they killing Afrikaners, but there is persecution. So every time someone from the government, from Trump's administration, comes out and drops the P word, says persecution, I get excited for all of you, not only refugees, because it will help you, even though it's not necessary for you, but especially for asylum seekers, because it really ups the ammunition you have to use to convince that USCIS asylum officer, or if you happen to be in removal proceedings, that immigration judge, that you are deserving of relief, you're deserving of asylum, because our government already acknowledges that there is persecution, that extreme level of conduct, and it is being committed against you because you're an Afrikaner. So I just wanted to get that out. I thought this was big news. I'll put a link to the Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary's discussion. It's at the 9:30-ish mark in the link I'm going to leave, so you should check it out. But she clearly says it. So again, you need to be constantly, especially if you're an asylum seeker, constantly looking for things like this that you can use to bolster your case. So as always, remember to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you for the next video.